In this video, we're going to find an amount given a percent and a whole. Find the indicated amounts, round your final answer to 2 decimal places as needed. Feel free to use your calculator for your computations. However, make sure to write down the expression that you put in the calculator. Okay? So we're going to solve these problems, and we're going to focus on these 3 terms: amount, percent, and a whole. And notice in all of these problems, we're going to be given a percent and a whole, and we're going to be asked to find the corresponding amount. So since that's our goal, I'm underlining it in green. Okay. Now the process we follow, it's easy to determine what the percent is because it has a percent sign. So notice I see all of these percents. Okay. But sometimes it can be difficult to distinguish between an amount and a whole. Okay. So in these problems, when they're out of context, and actually in context too, we'll see in the next video, the whole is always preceded by the word of. Okay? So remember, we said you're finding a percent of some value, and the of is referring to the whole. Okay? So to find an amount given a percent and a whole, we take the whole and multiply it by the percent, which we write as a decimal or as a fraction. Okay. So let's look at the first one. We want to find 63% of 270. So we have 270. We want 63% of it, so that's 63 out of every 100 pieces. So I'm writing 63% as a fraction, and I'm going to do that in general rather than a decimal. And even though you may prefer decimals, we're going to do these computations on the calculator, and I think that this shows you more clearly why we're using this value the way we do. So dividing 270 by 100 gives us 1%. Then when we multiply by 63, that gives us 63 copies of 1%, which is 63% of 270. Okay? So multiplying across, 270 times 63 divided by 100, and we're going to do all these computations on the calculator. 270 times 63 divided by 100, because 100's in the denominator, so we'll divide, and we get 170.1. Okay, let's look at the next one. What is 23.4% of 18? So again, we know this is a percent because it has a percent symbol, and we know that 18 is the whole because 18 follows the word of. Okay, so we're going to take the whole, we're going to write the percent, 23.4, as a number over 100, and now we're going to multiply. So notice here, I wrote the next step: multiply the numerators, divide by the denominator. Okay, we're going to take 18, multiply by 23.4, and divide by 100. Our result is 4.212. We were asked to round to 2 decimal places as needed, so that would be 4.21. And I'm going to use the approximately since we rounded. Okay. And I'm going to see if this one makes sense. 23.4% is about 25%, which is about a quarter. If I divided 18 and 4 by 4, I get about 4, so that seems right. Now here we have 4 7/8% of 32,000 is what number? The percent is clear because it's marked with a percent sign. 32,000 is the number after of, so that's our whole. So we're going to take 32,000 and multiply by 4 7/8 over 100. Okay. Now we have a mixed number and a fraction here, so I'm actually going to find this value first before I multiply by 32,000. So let's start by finding 4 7/8. So I'm going to first find 4 7/8. Then I'm going to divide it by 100. Then I'm going to multiply by 32,000. Okay, so since it's multiplication, I can do this in that order, and then it makes it easier to use the calculator. So first, to find 4 7/8, I'm going to add 4 plus 7 divided by 8. Okay. Then I'm going to divide by 100. That gives me this value. So this is actually the percent written as a decimal. And now I'm going to multiply by 32,000. And we get 1560. Let's look at the next one. Find 137% of 2.83. So this is my percent, this is my whole, and I want to find the amount that's 137% of 2.83. So 2.83 times, I'm going to write 137 over 100, and I'm going to multiply across. So we have 2.83. I multiply by 137, and since 100 is in the denominator, I divide by 100, and I get 3.8771. To 2 decimal places. The second decimal place is 7. To the right is 7, so I'm going to round up because this is greater than 5 or greater, so it's 3.88. So it's approximately 3.88. Here's the next one. What is 0.87% of 92? Here's my percent. Here's my whole after the word of. So I'm going to take 92. I'm going to write 0.87 over 100. And now I'm going to multiply across. So I multiply 92 times 0.87 divided by 100. To 2 decimal places would be 0.80. This is 0, so I wouldn't round up. So we'll round this to 0.80. We can also just write 0.8, but sometimes we like to put the 0 in to show that we rounded to 2 decimal places. Let's look at the next one. 27% of 3/4, so 3/4 is our whole, is what number? So I'm going to take 3/4 and multiply by 27 over 100. Okay. So now we have to be a little bit careful when we put this in the calculator. So this is 3 times 27 over 4 times 100. Now if I put this in the calculator without putting the 4 and the 100 in parentheses, it will divide by 4 but then multiply by 100 when we have the 100 in the denominator and we want to divide by it. So I am just going to use parentheses, okay? And this is a really, really basic calculator and it has parentheses. So 3 times 27 divided by, and in parentheses, I'm putting 4 times 100. Close the parentheses, and notice it's written up here. You could also put the numerator in parentheses, but it's actually not necessary. And we get 0.2025. So rounded to 2 decimal places, that would be 0.20. So it's approximately 0.20. And our last one, what is 9 2/3%, so there's our percent, of 38 1/3. Okay. Again, don't worry about the mixed numbers. So our whole is 38 1/3, and we want to multiply that by 9 2/3 over 100. Okay. And if we just use parentheses, we won't have any problems. Okay. So remember, 38 1/3 means 38 plus 1/3, and I'm just going to put everything in parentheses parentheses here to be safe. So 38 plus 1 divided by 3. I'm going to put that in parentheses. Okay, never round midway, only round at the end. Now I want to multiply this by times. So I'm going to get new parentheses. 9 2/3 is 9 plus 2/3. Now that's in parentheses. And then I divide by 100. And we get this result. Okay, so if you round too soon, then you're going to have round off error, so you don't want to round till the very end. So to 2 decimal places, the zeros in the hundredths place. Since this is a 5, we're going to round up to 3.71. So this is approximately 3.71.